Lewis Pullman and Wyatt Russell are making waves in Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, but I'm interested in dissecting the efforts of another famous Nepo baby in Jack Quaid's recent film Novocaine. The film came out in theaters a few months ago, actually, and has been sitting on streaming on Paramount Plus, but is it worth seeking out or will it just make you numb? Pun intended. Well, stick around and I will let you know my thoughts on the matter. Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Morgan, and I love movies. I love all movies, including gory action flicks. So, Novocaine was a film that I was looking forward to while the trailers were populating multiplexes, even though it was one of those kind of inescapable trailers that played ahead of literally everything. If you're a regular moviegoer like me, there's always like one trailer that weirdly they play ahead of every other movie, regardless of genre, regardless of rating. And for me, I saw that trailer maybe about a billion times. Um, Novocaine was directed by duo Robert Olson and Dan Burke, two filmmakers who I am not super familiar with in terms of their previous kind of projects. The pair is best known for 2019's Villains, starring Bill Skarsgård, and 2022's Significant Other, starring Micah Monroe of Longlegs fame. I've not seen either of those movies, but I like those actors quite a bit, so maybe I will add those two films to my watch list after this. Novocaine, however, stars Jack Quaid as Nathan Caine, the titular character. It also stars Amber Midthunder, Ray Nicholson, son of Jack Nicholson, for any fun trivia fact wanters out there. Also stars Jacob Batalon, Betty Gabriel, Matt Walsh, and Conrad Kemp, among several others. You know, it's a solid cast of C-list stars, and I mean that with no disrespect. I actually think it's a neat choice to give these actors chances to be in a big, widely released film, with the exception of Batalon, of course. Jacob Batalon is, of course, in those MCU Spider Man films, but outside of that, he doesn't really himself yet scream movie star, at least to me. The potential is there. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just, articulating that it was nice to see him in Novocaine, kind of an original film outside of the Marvel system, even if he's still relegated to kind of a best friend role. So I digress. Novocaine follows Nathan Caine, a man incapable of feeling physical pain. Nathan's new girlfriend is kidnapped, and he uses his rare condition as an advantage to pursue her kidnappers and initiate a rescue. I liked Novocaine all right. I actually saw the film back when it initially came out in theaters. My girlfriend and I went out on a date to see it since we both think Jack Quaid is likable and we thought the premise of the movie was neat. And while we had a decent time, the film is, a solid date night flick. We had a decent enough time. I can't really say that the movie will likely end up on my top of the year lists or remain in my memory very strongly going forward after I kind of refreshed myself via Paramount Plus. Despite a nice hook and a charming lead performance from Jack Quaid, and even some intriguing plot twists that I won't spoil here, the film lacks a certain oomph or X factor that I think would have really put it over the top. The action is sufficiently gory and brutal, the jokes are pleasant enough, and the chemistry from all the actors is solid, but in the end, I did not walk away with the feeling that the movie kind of crystallized into a real gem in any sort of way, and I hope that makes sense as far as analytical language there. I believe that the main issue stems from a lack of any truly inspired kind of visual language throughout the course of the film. The movie doesn't look bad, but it also looks awfully standard. It looks like a broad, widely released action comedy. So, I mean that the color palette doesn't really pop. The cinematography is kind of straight off of a metaphorical assembly line. And even though the movie has strong elements in it and a memorable central idea, the actual, I guess, nuts and bolts filmmaking feels just a little drab. And it's kind of the difference, if I have to create like a metaphor here, it's kind of the difference between store-bought cookies and homemade ones or ones from like a bespoke local bakery. That isn't to say that, if you liked this movie, Novocaine, or even loved it, that you're a bad moviegoer or that you have bad taste, right? I mean, I too enjoyed much of what Novocaine has to offer, and I'm not going to sit here and argue that a quick shot of metaphorical sugar, or in this case, adrenaline, can't be, fulfilling for a moviegoer who's looking for a specific experience that sets that mood and that mood alone. It probably also didn't help that I saw this film on the same evening as Black Bag. My girlfriend and I made a date to go to the movies and see a double feature of Novocaine and Black Bag with dinner in the middle. And Black Bag, which I may talk about in a separate video, is just so far and above Novocaine in terms of the score, the lighting, the actual craft. It's not really fair to compare an established filmmaker like Steven Soderbergh to these relative newcomers, with maybe less than half a dozen credits to their name. So I do recognize that. And it's also probably not fair to compare actors like Jack Quaid and Jacob Batalon to more seasoned veterans like Michael Fassbender or Kate Blanchett. I do feel like the circumstances in which I saw Novocaine, though, are important to bring up and might explain why maybe I was a little softer on it than I otherwise would have been had it been the only movie that I saw that night. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, though, this film is not without its perks. It makes me interested in seeing what Jack Quaid does next. I understand he's very well liked on The Boys, for example, which I've yet to see. I liked him in Companion, and I liked him in Novocaine, though, so I think he is a very exciting kind of new actor on the scene. And from every interview I've seen of his, he seems very passionate about the craft. He seems like a cinephile. He seems like he's seen a lot of stuff or knows ball, to borrow a colloquialism from the kids. Um, and I also think it's great that an original film got such a wide release and had such a big marketing push behind it leading up to it coming out in theaters. I'll go see Marvel movies. I'm a comic book nerd. I'm excited for some of the sequels that are coming out this summer, like Mission Impossible, etc. As everyone else is. And I share the opinion, though, that many cinephiles have, which is that original films need to get made and championed more often than they are by studios. So even though this was not like a home run for me, I'm glad that it's an original film that the studio seemed to really get behind and support and release as wide as possible across the country. So at the end of the day, where would this film, Novocaine, rank on my list of A list, amazing, average, abysmal, or needs to be abolished? Well, I think that Novocaine is a movie, like I said, with nice chemistry between actors, decent action, decent gore, and a few fun plot twists. That being said, I also did not find the finished product to be that memorable. Um, I wanted more from the actual, filmmaking being presented to me during the runtime. Like, it's nice to have a cool idea. It's nice to have likable actors, but if the vibe of the actual, filmmaking isn't there, if there's no real kind of aura or atmosphere in that way, then your movie is just lesser for it. And I felt that, unfortunately. So therefore, Novocaine will be getting a respectful average rating. It is a polite 3-star movie if I were to be forced to quantify it into a numerical score. I saved $10.99 on this ticket by using AMC A List. I say this not because I am sponsored by AMC A List, but because I plan to kind of tally my savings using that service at the end of 1 year as a type of experiment to see if it's actually worth it. Um, I think saving around $11 on a screening of a new original movie that I mostly liked is a decent enough deal. So I'm pleased with that for sure. Um, anyway, did you see Novocaine? And if you did, what did you think of it? Is Jack Quaid, for example, one of your internet boyfriends? He seems to be loved by many. So, I mean, I don't know. Should I finally start The Boys? Is he like a significant player in the early seasons compared to the later ones? I feel like I didn't hear about him a whole lot when that show premiered, and now his star has kind of risen astronomically. I don't know. I've also heard that The Boys kind of fell off in terms of quality recently, but I'm a massive comic book nerd, so I feel like I might be predisposed to liking it even at its worst. You're looking at a guy, after all, who kind of stands 10 toes down on the opinion that Eternals is actually pretty awesome. So keep that in mind. Take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to answer any or all of those questions that I asked in the comments. Feel free to like this video and or subscribe to the channel too for thoughts on more movies as they come out in theaters and as they hit streaming, as they sit on streaming. In any case, I thank you again for watching this video in particular and spending some time with me today. Until next time, don't let your rare condition that prevents you from feeling physical pain stop you from getting laid. Um, I actually Also, would love to know in the comments if there are any movies specifically that you think I ought to cover that maybe I'm missing that are falling through the cracks. Summer's picking up. I've seen Thunderbolts. I'd like to do something about Thunderbolts. Mission Impossible's on the horizon. Lilo and Stitch is on the horizon. And there are things like Flight Risk with Josh Hartnett, and I guess I'm just kind of curious as to whether the kind of bigger, more widely released films are things that people are interested in versus commentary on these very kind of unique little things that are maybe less widely known. Anyway, like I said, thank you very much. Thanks for sticking with me as I ramble on here a little bit. Stay safe. Bye.